Hi, I'm Eric. I found my phone and welcome to another video. Today we're getting into something a little different. First of all, I'm in a gamer chair. I didn't shell out or I got it off the street, but it's much more comfortable than the other chair I've been using. So if you're wondering what that is, I'm not becoming a gaming channel again for the moment. Today I want to do something a little different than my normal music reactions because I want to experiment on my channel and I want to do things that are just fun. I don't make enough on YouTube that I can't experiment and try things that I just enjoy doing. And what I've enjoyed doing in the last week is watching reality TV. I've been watching a lot of reality TV actually over the past few months, especially when I work out. But my last gym session last week was the start of Perfect Match, and I watched it and have been done with it for a few days now, and it has been a week since I started it. Needless to say, it captured my attention. I got through it very quickly, and I have thoughts on it. I have thoughts on other shows as well. So let me know if there's other shows that you'd like me to discuss on my channel. I pretty much just watch reality TV. I don't watch a ton of non-reality TV. Reality TV is really the best stuff for the gym because it can be entertaining and interesting and capture your attention, get you a couple extra reps in. But if you do need to focus on what your actual workout is, you're really not missing much. And I do appreciate that they remind you several times. I don't have to be watching the screen the whole time. So that's very helpful for me. But anyway, I really wanted to talk about my thoughts. So I'll give you a rundown of how the show works as well as what my thoughts on how the first season of it went. We'll keep it spoiler free for the format portion, and then we'll get into a lot of spoilers. So I'll tell you at what point you need to stop watching if you actually want to go and see it for yourself. But anyway, let's dive right in. So Perfect Match to me feels like what Bachelor Paradise is for Netflix reality shows at this point. We have stars from The Circle, Love is Blind, Selling Tampa, The Mole, and a couple other shows in there. I know Carousel was in Sexy Beasts. There was someone who was in 20-somethings. Too Hot to Handle has a lot. And then I know there was an Ultimatum person. I think that's all of them. Basically, it's taking all these people that we have followed on these other shows in various levels of depth. I'm sure Love is Blind, I actually haven't seen Love is Blind, but I'm pretty sure Love is Blind gets much more deeper into the personalities and how you think about those people. Whereas a show like The Circle is much more based on making those connections and the competition aspect. The Mole, even more so. I feel like The Mole, we don't actually get much about the personalities of the people at all. And so there's definitely different thoughts about different people coming in. Oftentimes there's more thoughts about some people who have been on romantic shows like Love is Blind or Too Hot to Handle rather than The Circle or The Mole, or probably Selling Tampa because I believe that's about a home selling agency. Let me know about that one. That one really intrigued me because I didn't hear about it at all before. Basically, they bring a bunch of singles to Panama at this fancy, hotel-ish thing. And they are like, okay, you have to match with someone by the end of the night or the end of the week. I don't know exactly how it's filmed, but you match with these people and then you go into a competition with them based on compatibility. And then the most compatible couple wins, which is not always true, but we'll get into that. And then that couple gets themselves a date, but they also get to control basically who comes into the house next. Because you have an initial group of people, but then each time they basically get to choose 2 guys or 2 girls that can come in out of 4 and who they're gonna go on a date with. If you watched Bachelor in Paradise at all, I've seen one season of it because I had followed a bunch of the people from their respective seasons and I wanted to see how they all interacted with each other. But when new people come in on that show, they come with a date card and they get to ask someone out. So there's a little more free will because that person can say no. And it also means that whoever is coming in gets to pick someone that they're actually interested in. Whereas this show, it's controlled by 2 people who are not part of that potential connection at all. They don't get to choose whether they get to go on the date. They have to go on the date if they are chosen. And the person who comes in does not know who they're expecting. Obviously, some couples will probably do this with the best of intentions, but others might do it to break up couples that they might think are a threat. After those dates happen, the people coming in do get to meet the rest of the house, and there'll be like a little cocktail party, and then the gender generally that has less people there will pick their matches. Not in a rose ceremony style like in Bachelor in Paradise, but they get to do it naturally on their own time. I don't know how naturally it is because it is still a very highly produced reality show, but it's not all just standing up in this stressor thing. You could just ask someone, hey, do you want to be my match? And then y'all can go up to your room and enjoy yourselves. How the winner or the perfect match is determined is at the end of the season. All the people who are not in final couplings come back and they will individually vote on who they think is the most compatible couple and deserves to be the perfect match. And the prize in question, I'm not going to mention it here, but it's not a cash prize in the standard sense. But that's the general format of the show. If that's something that you are interested in watching, go ahead. This is the point for you to exit if you don't want any spoilers. If you're okay with some spoilers or you've seen it and want to talk about it and hear my thoughts about it, please continue. Also, while the majority of these spoilers are going to be about Perfect Match, remember that these are contestants on other shows from Netflix, so I might have some spoilers from Too Hot to Handle or from The Circle or from The Mole. So just be warned, I'll try to keep those as fleeting as possible, but they might come up. So I'm going to go right to the point where their big spoilers are, and that is by talking about the final couples. There were either 6 or 5 final couples. I'm only talking about Dom and Georgia, Joey and Carousel, and Chloe and Shane, because those are the 3 that I honestly remember. I don't even remember the other ones because they were added so at the end that they just didn't seem like they were going to go far. And the fact that also no one is still together at this point, even though I think it's been less than a year since it was filmed, is a little ridiculous. The 3 main couples we're going to be talking about are Dom and Georgia, Joey and Carousel, and Chloe and Shane. I also do want to mention here as a disclaimer, hey, these are real people. And also, producers of reality shows, they edit a lot. You might be a completely different person in person versus on these shows, but they can change things to get the edit that they want. That's just a very classic producer thing, and they do that to make the show more engaging. And the fact that I watched the entire season in like 4 days is a testament to that. Honestly, they did a good job at editing this season. Also, I am happy to be cast in whatever, despite the fact that I'm well aware that producers edit things and can manipulate what you say. So let's start with Dom and Georgia. The fact that they won, I was so surprised. I really thought Joey and Carousel were going to win because of the edit that they were getting. But Dom and Georgia winning was like a pleasant surprise because Dom is one of my favorite people on this show. I did watch The Mole. It was actually the last show before this that I had fully like watched all the way through very quickly, not just during regular workout sessions. I didn't pace myself at all with The Mole. I watched it in like 2 days. It was wild, but I didn't remember Dom at all. I think Dom is one of my favorite people in this show. I don't know. He is just so romantic and very content in his masculinity. He has his painted nails. I found out he's a Swiftie also, which is really cool. And he made a statement about it that people might call him like gay or whatever, but he's talking about like how some very iconic straight men in history have really defied what traditional gender roles are. And I think that's really important that we don't just push people into boxes of, oh, they must be queer because they do this. I think it's really cool to have a really strong ally. We need some healthy straight men, some very healthy masculine men that are hetero. Like, I'm happy that they exist and are willing to support the LGBTQ plus community. I think that's very important. And I think we need to not just be like, oh, well, maybe they support us because they are one of us. No, don't push people who are going to be really great allies away. I feel like that's what happened with like Shawn Mendes or any other man we've deemed queer, even though he specifically has said he's straight. I feel like that most negatively affects the queer community, and I feel like the people who are perpetuating the idea that these people must be queer are not queer themselves. And so y'all don't need to comment on it. I get mad about it with Taylor Swift as well. Please stop trying to make our allies part of our community. They are allies to our community. Let's let them be good allies by not poking fun at them or saying their relationships are a lie because they're not who they say they are. Okay, that really doesn't have much to do with Dom. I really loved getting to know Dom. I feel like he was very romantic. He was very kind, very supportive. I mean, he's strong, he's fit. Like, what's the problem? We didn't get a lot of time with him on the mole, and I feel like the mole also doesn't really show personality because we don't know who the mole is either. It's very difficult for us to really trust everything that they're saying. And once they get eliminated, it's not like they're doing a giant testimonial to the camera. So it's not like we really get to know who they are as a person, especially definitely not the romantic side. So it was really cool to see that different element. And that's probably going to be a recurring theme for a lot of these people who I've seen in other shows before. It's cool seeing another side of them. Georgia seemed cool too. I haven't seen her season of Too Hot to Handle. I've only seen the first 2 seasons, and I'm honestly not that impressed with Too Hot to Handle as a whole show. It's not my thing. However, if y'all need me to pretend to have an addiction to physical touch in order to get me on that show, sure, I can be your mole, honestly, on that season. Happy to help with that. I will respect Lana's rules unless y'all tell me not to. And I can edit this part out. But I didn't know Georgia before. She just seemed nice. Honestly, I feel like for a show that's all about romance, I feel like we don't get all the personalities of these people to some degree, mainly because we're following so many, but also because it's framed as a competition show at the same time. So I don't really know Georgia's personality at all. Really at all. She seems nice. And I'm glad that she picked Dom kind of on a whim a little bit, and that they became the most compatible couple, the perfect match at the end. However, the fact that y'all won and y'all got your prize, which was the trip anywhere you want, and y'all wanted to go to Maldives, the fact that you broke up and didn't even use your vacation, come on. If y'all are friends, if y'all still have love for each other on the trip as a couple, for the cameras or whatever, I don't think the cameras are even there. Just use your fun trip that you want to go with someone who you still care about, right? Just do it because it's a once in a lifetime thing, or it's content, whatever you see it as. Why did you lose your prize that you spent that whole time fighting for? I don't know why they did that, unless they actually just didn't like each other at all. Like, if y'all are even gonna just go platonically there, it's a 1 week, all expenses paid trip to anywhere in the world. Just do it. Like, that's so cool. Then we get into Joey and Carousel. Now, I knew Joey very well because I had seen all of season 1 of The Circle. I'm not going to talk about where he placed in that, but he became one of my favorites, and I didn't think starting that he was. I kind of wanted him to go home, but he didn't go home early or at all, and he honestly became one of my favorite people in that show and made me want to just like be his friend and know him. I feel like he'd be really cool. Yeah, honestly, like, he just had such a good energy, and the fact that he was going to be on the show, I was like, yes. That was like one of the reasons why I wanted to watch it. And then Carousel I knew nothing about. It was really funny that she's from Sexy Beast and just dressed up as the panda. That's kind of funny that they knew each other and had history. I feel like the producers were really going for a fairy tale moment of, oh, you know, he was having these issues committing in the past, and now they're finally here and they can finally commit to each other. And the fact they got engaged at the end is wild to me. I was like, y'all were there. I don't even know how long y'all were there, but y'all have been there since the beginning. So I guess y'all had time to develop over time. The fact that they pushed that forward and then they got to the engagement part and, oh, he couldn't commit before, but now he's fully committing. He's literally getting on one knee for her. That was wild. And I think it's because of commitment that they're not together anymore. I don't really know. Again, I don't really care about the speculation of them after the fact too much. I care about them within the context of the show because these are the characters we're made to believe rather than the real people that are behind them. I was rooting for them. I actually saw a lot of myself in Carousel, especially at the beginning. The more they got into it and the more Carousel was like, oh, like, I would want to get married like right after the show. Oh, I want kids like within the next year. Those things are not me. But the idea of feeling hurt or feeling like I want to trust this person, but they've had these issues before. I just saw a lot of struggles that I've dealt with and a lot of ideas in my head that I've also dealt with. And I also know that she is bi. And she was the bi person on the show that, besides Abby I also related to a lot. I've related to both of those much more than the Francesca bi. And then Chloe and Shane, I literally thought they could have been the perfect match. I was like, I wanted them almost to win because that would have been like a shocking upset. It would have just been wild. I would have been like, what the heck? They're together and winning? That would have been so much fun. Because I love Chloe on both Too Hot to Handle as well as the Circle season 2. And then Shane, I hadn't seen him in Love is Blind, but he was really giving neurodivergent energy, and I was like, ooh, he's a neurodivergent himbo vibe. That might be my type. And the romantic guy content in his masculinity. You know who I'm talking about. Anyway, Chloe and Shane, that felt like the most compatible couple during the entire time. The two people that felt like they got each other the whole time. And when Chloe was like, I need to wrap stuff up with Mitchell, I was like, no. And then she came back and they ran into each other's arms. It's like, oh my God, yes. Like, that was my favorite couple to watch during the entire season, except for the fact of like Shane getting upset about the Mitchell thing, which honestly fair. I think he didn't handle it the best way, but you can't always know exactly how you're going to respond in a specific instance. And as we know, he's not really the most neurotypical person, and so he might not respond in the most typical of ways. It doesn't make it right, but the fact that someone doesn't react in the way that you want them to is really not your choice. Anyway, I wanted them to win, and I know that they probably broke up because of the difference in connecting, and I could tell, like, at the end of the season that Chloe was a little unnerved by Shane and that side that he could get into. So I understand how she felt about that, but yeah, I thought they were good together. Those personalities, like, she needs someone like Shane in the elements that they got along together. I feel like that will be the best for her and for him. I feel like there was such a levity to it generally when it was light. And I don't know, I guess they don't handle the same deeper, serious things in the same serious way that's a compatible way and not aggressive or abrasive. So those are 3 final couples I want to talk about. The other ones I don't care about. I don't remember them anymore. They have fully escaped my mind. However, that said, I do want to talk about some other notable people from this season. We had Francesca and Damien. That was a couple that was interesting, considering that Francesca got so mad at Savannah for her talking to Dom and then dumped Dom the next day for Damien. And then was like, oh, like trying to get Dom immediately out because it's awkward. And I get that it's awkward, but like, girl, don't you care at all about the person you just dumped? And you dumped them specifically to just check out someone else. It wasn't because you didn't like them at all. Like, don't you want them to be happy? I don't know. I felt like Francesca was very bitter. And I would say specifically for her case, just how I've seen from Too Hot to Handle as well as here. I don't know. I mean, I don't follow her elsewhere, but to me, even though like the producers definitely probably edit her to be a lot meaner than she might be, I feel like some of it you can't edit it because there are certain words that I clearly see you say the entire sentence, and that was rude for you to say. I guess it's brutal honesty, but then you should expect some brutal honesty also coming your way. Anyway, Francesca and Damien, they never personally felt right for me. And again, I'm not trying to comment on their compatibility or anything like that, but I knew that if they made it to the end of the show that they were going to break up after the fact. I was not surprised at that at all. Felt like when Francesca had her breakup, when she broke up with Damien basically right before the finale, it felt a little like karma. And not saying that Francesca doesn't deserve love or anything like that. I'm saying that the character that was so mean and trying to control other people and trying to ruin certain relationships, that she ended up ruining her own at the end. And again, no one is together anymore, so it's not like it matters. So it was just a nice little vacation in Canada for them to get some content and to build their followings at this point. So again, it doesn't matter, but producer-wise, that was a good poetic justice moment that I appreciated. I also want to talk about Savannah. Savannah was on the first season of The Circle that I watched, which is season 2. And the thing about Savannah, my friend specifically mentioned this. I really liked Savannah. And my friend said she's likable until she feels threatened. And that's fair. She can be very petty, but she knows it. And I honestly live for her pettiness. Like, literally, Savannah, if you ever see this, I love you, like, platonically. Like, can we be friends? I really just want to be, like, a chismosa with you. But also just, like, I feel like you're insanely intelligent. So I thought she was cool, and she was thinking of the strategy of the game, which if there was a big cash prize at the end, like with the circle, it would have made a little more sense. But she didn't end up really like vibing with anyone there. It would have been cool to see Savannah and Dom, because I liked Savannah and I really liked Dom by the end of this season. I would have wanted to see how that turned out. Obviously, Dom was very loyal, and that's fair. That's what you want in a person. So fair. But I think it would have been interesting to see how that turned out. I do think that the Savannah Francesca thing, did Savannah go low a little bit? Yeah, but Francesca, like, is just mean and controlling and wants things to be done her way, like she owned the house. And Savannah actually was trying to put her in her place, and honestly, I respect that. A brief moment about Mitchell. Mitchell was also in season 2, and I watched that season specifically with my now ex, but Mitchell was my ex's least favorite person, like, ever. Like, he hated this guy, and honestly, I didn't really care for him either. I felt like he came off regularly as very unintelligent and very, I don't know, like, not ignorant, but like, I just really was like, there's nothing going on up there, at least in the Circle's editing of it. He was not my favorite person to see on the Circle, where especially that season had like a lot of like good people in it, and I just did not care at all about him whatsoever. So when I heard he was coming back, I was like, okay, great. Anyway, the fact that Chloe and him dated after the show, it makes sense, because I don't know, they are similar, but I don't know, he's such an interesting person. I wanted to say character in that sense of like, oh, when you meet someone who's a little odd and you're like, wow, that's a very interesting character. He is very interesting because, I don't know, he gives off this like playful energy and being like young, and I want to go after, you know, all these girls, but he's also like saving himself, which I totally respect. I have no problem with that. He doesn't curse, he uses firkin. Firk. Literally hate that. Honestly, it annoyed the heck out of me, because I understand not wanting to curse, but I don't like it when you basically just replace the curse word with the same thing and just basically curse several times. Like, it was in his regular vocabulary. Back when I didn't curse, I primarily just would find other ways to express my anger. It's a very annoying way to do it. It's not like fudge, fiddlestick, blah, blah. Like, you just find ways to not be as angry if you care about not saying those words, in my opinion. Like, I've been angry on this channel about certain things, and I found ways to generally not curse. There are ways, and I don't necessarily care in my everyday life about not cursing, but I don't know. He just used fork all the time. It was annoying as heck, honestly. I feel like there's some inconsistency there, because, you know, he's trying to be wholesome in that, you know, he's keeping himself pure or whatever, and he also is, you know, not cursing and that type of vibe. But then he also is like, oh, I don't want to like settle down or have kids for a long time, and like, honestly, live your life, be complex, contain multitudes and all that. But it was really completely confusing for me. I just don't know what to like make of him. And yeah, like when she ended up being like, I want to end up choosing Shane after this, like, honestly, like, makes sense. Like, she's looking for love, and it's called perfect match. And if you don't want to match with someone, if you don't want to like settle down or even be in a relationship at all, like, I understand wanting to wait a while to get married, have kids or whatever, but you don't want to be in a relationship. Why are you on Perfect Match, which is a dating show? The idea that you'll be in a relationship if you're the perfect match. So it was very weird why he was there. I mean, I get that they want to hire people that have a good amount of clout online. I see Mitchell randomly on my Snapchat Discover page. I don't want him there, but he is there. And so I know that he's popular on social media, that he's active on social media, and they're probably picking people who are generally that way. It's not like you saw Shoe Bomb on there. But at the same time, it's rather annoying to have someone who's not looking for a relationship go on to a dating show. Why are you there? Especially, like, I don't know, Perfect Match, like, I think is intended to be like that. It's not like Too Hot to Handle, where the idea is that you would be like, you know, messing with a lot of people, which also he's not going to do that either. So what is your point? You made sense, I guess, on The Circle. You don't really make sense on this show. That brings me to my favorite person on the show, I think, which is Inez. I love her. I never saw The Cirque of France because I believe you would need to know French for that or do the English subtitles. But since I work out while watching most reality TV, I don't want to need to have subtitles on my stuff while I watch it because I'm not always looking at the screen. But I really resonate with Inez. I felt like she was very good at articulating her feelings and being very emotionally mature in a way that no one else on the show probably was. Maybe Dom, but like Dom is just a more of a strong silent type. So he's not going to very clearly express a lot of things like to the camera, and especially also considering the fact that when he was in a relationship, he was always very solid. So there wasn't a lot for him to discuss, whereas Inez was basically in a different pairing every single time they competed. I really personally resonated with her. I felt like she just was very smart and intelligent, and she's beautiful. Like I'm bi. I can find Dom and Shane's qualities attractive, but also I can find like Chloe and Inez's qualities also attractive. And I felt like Inez's way of articulating how she was feeling was very strong. Like English isn't even her first language, and she is better at articulating her feelings in English than probably anyone else on that show. I think it was important to have an emotionally mature person there to help guide them. Hopefully, I mean, a lot of them clearly, none of them ended up together, so I guess that guidance wasn't always taken, but she was very mature. She was like, oh, I see how Shane and Chloe get along. I realize it's really not my place to stand in the way of that. Being aware when your connection's not as strong as someone else's connection. Being aware that you don't want to be a second person. Being aware that someone's emotionally manipulating you and you're not going to deal with that. Yeah, I think she was very strong and powerful, and she just gave a really good image. I followed her and Dom. Those are the two that I went and followed right after the show. And yeah, I just really loved hearing from her and getting that perspective, because I think a lot of us Americans need it. The last person I want to shout out was Colony. She is one of the people on Selling Tampa. I don't know Selling Tampa at all. I would just see like the little clips that they would show when they're introducing the people that they can go on dates with. And I was like, wait, hold on a minute. I love HGTV. Should I be watching this? Let me know if I should watch Selling Tampa. Please let me know. She was on the show for a very little amount of time. She went on a date with, I want to say Dom. Yes. And then Dom was very much like giving the respectful, hey, I was sent on this date. I'm actually in a really strong relationship with Georgia. I'm really not trying to jeopardize that. So please mingle with everyone else in the house, which I think was very good and appropriate for what Dom should do. And Colony, I just loved this line because I wanted to screenshot it so badly, but the Netflix gods do not want me doing that. So even if you try to screenshot on your phone, which is mainly how I was watching it, it would show your closed caption, but it would not show the actual screen. But after these couples were, coupling up and just all in love, she said something along the lines of, I'm just going to keep drinking because yikes. And I was like, girl, me too. I just wanted to shout you out, Colony, because your humor, your power, your energy was not unnoticed. And I hope you find love in your life. I hope everyone in the show finds love, and whatever that means to them, in a way that's at least not toxic. Non-toxic love. That's what we're going to be promoting in this household. But a very special shout out to Colony, because, girl, if I had to sign a contract to be out there, and primarily I don't know what they were doing when they were not in the resort. Were they somewhere else? I don't know. What was their holding place? Because they obviously had to come back for the end. So I hope they got to do some fun things. But if she was out here trying to find love and she's really in the house for like one day, that kind of sucks. And I don't know, especially I felt bad for her because she was also like one of the later entrances as well. And this is not about an individual per se, but one other thing I wanted to touch on before getting into my conclusion is about the bi representation. Obviously, this show was very, 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 very hetero. Guys picking girls, girls picking guys, with the notable exception of Francesca picking Abby on, I don't know what episode it was. I watched a lot of them back to back, so the episode numbers didn't really stick with me. I thought to myself early on, I was like, okay, yeah, Francesca is bi, and then I think Carousel might have alluded to the fact that she was, and then I fully forgot that Carousel was. because she was really only with Joey and didn't get a ton of time in confessionals that wasn't about her relationship with Joey. I was like, shoot, I'm really strapping up for some heterosexual content. And that's primarily what we got. Yes, guys and girls, as can be. But there was the moment of Francesca getting sent on a date at the same time. And I was like, wait, hold on a minute. And then does actually choose Abby for a moment. And that was wild. And I was very excited about that. It's very exciting to feel represented in some degree on television. And there was also a very beautiful conversation, two actually beautiful conversations. One was between Francesca and Carousel about being bi, and I think they had similar experiences on coming out, or had very different experience. I don't remember. They had their experiences that they talked about openly on international television, which is very important to me, and I really like that. And the other one was Carousel talking about it to Joey, which I think is an important conversation for straight people to have with a bisexual, especially if they are in a relationship with a bisexual, because there's a lot that we think about that if we end up with a straight person or a gay person, someone who is attracted to only one gender, it's a hard conversation because you're still definitely committed to them, but at the same time, people might see you as only gay or straight. And I feel like that limits how you're perceived as a person, and I don't like that. And I'm glad that Carousel was like really like brutally honest. Like, I'm glad you respect that. And Joey was so respectful in that thing. I don't know if he was coached by a producer to be like smile and nod, but he did really great with it. Honestly, no real notes on it. That's what I would want to hear if I was his partner. That's it. The fact that we got that bi representation, it was really like isolated to really like 1 to 2 episodes. And I understand the fact that, hey, you know, the 2-girl couple decided not to fully stay matched. It happens. I understand that. They can't really force you to be in love. They can't, but I'm glad that they're not forcing you to be that way. But it would have been nice if there was an inkling of some more bi people in the show, more representation. There's been plenty of queer people in the circle, for example. Where's that version of Perfect Match? I would love to see a queer version of it. I might want to see it after I get onto a different show, so then I can be on that show and then get onto that show. That would be nice. But I think there's a market for that. You have so many queer people and bisexual people, well, not necessarily bi in particular, but you've had plenty of people who are queer be on your shows. The Circle has, I want to say like 1/3 of them are queer every single season, at least. I don't know if Love is Blind did that at all, but there's probably ones in The Mole or wherever. You can get more representation if you want to. Like, that's your call, Netflix. There could definitely be a queer version of this show. And I think Francesca even mentioned it, and they kept it in like the final cut, which I was like surprised. Francesca was like, I wish there was just like a version of this show that was like everyone was like bi or gay or whatever, where everyone could date each other. And I was like, honestly, no, I respect that. And Francesca, that's like probably the one time I'm gonna agree with you. Maybe I'll agree with you on more things, but like that was the time where I'm like, I'm 100% backing you. If you, with your charm and your power, can convince Netflix to do that, you know, I will be supporting you. Also, while the bi representation was good to some extent, the fact that it was there, which honestly is how much I really ask for at this point. I wish there were some bi guys represented, even if they didn't act on it necessarily. I wish there was more than Dom being like the only one that's a little more feminine. Does that make sense? Like, they're all beefcakes. And the fact that you have like that question of like, how many push-ups can your partner bench with you on top of them? You really limited the type of guys also that you're even having on this show, and you're making them so they're generally going to be very hetero, because I don't know, it's just very socialized and very masculine heterosexual meant to be jocks and beefcakes. I think for a queer version of this show to exist, you'd have to be like more careful about also how you frame certain questions. And if you're doing a challenge that like that, sorry, I'm just remembering the fact that they could do more push-ups than put countries on a map. That was rough. Oh my God. That hurt to watch personally. But I think we could do a little bit better on most dating shows with having guys and girls look different, different sizes, different weights, different standards of beauty. Yeah, I think we could do a lot better with that in general, because now I'm thinking about it, there are a lot of people at different demographics on the circle. Why aren't those demographics transitioning into this sphere? For example, why aren't we having Sophia Lane, who played Isabella, on the circle, or even Rachel, who played herself on the circle? Why are those people not being featured? Why are we not giving it to them? Why do we have to give it to the people who are basically the Instagram models? I don't know. I would like to see a little different representation, and I think not just within the bi representation, but also just in general. A lot of people, they are a little similar in terms of how they look and their shapes. And yeah, I think we could have done better on that. With that said, I do have some conclusions. One, this is a very well edited show. The editing on this is pretty great, because it did keep me focused and want to watch so much of it, even more than The Circle, which I thought was pretty addicting, but this one is very addictive. So if you watch this, just be careful, have some space in your schedule. I would recommend. That said, the editing is very focused on competition. I feel like I didn't get to know much about a lot of these people. I felt like how they talk, I got to understand reasons why they might connect, but I can't tell you 3 things about Georgia. She was from Australia. She was on Too Hot to Handle, and she has long hair. Like, I can do that. Okay, I can do that. But I can't tell you anything personality about her, really. She's nice. She likes Dom, so, like, she's probably a good person. I feel like we focus much more on the challenging aspects. Yeah, we get those dates, but I feel like we focus more on either the competition or, oh, shoot, they're setting them on the date. Like, the drama of it. And, oh, you're not really gonna match with me? I thought you really liked me. When I don't really know that much about them all that much. I think a lot of dating shows run that risk. I feel like Love Island is similar in that way as well, where you just get focused on the dream of it rather than the more specific details of like who they are as people. I would say that The Bachelor, The Bachelorette does a better job of that, but that's because it's one lead following several people, and they really only focus on people as the numbers dwindle down because they know who's gonna do well. Whereas on Bachelor Paradise, we assume that you already know most of them pretty well, so you don't really have to care too much about getting to know them personally. And I guess to some degree, you did get that familiarity on these shows before, but for example, in The Circle, that's all strategy primarily and becoming popular. I don't know what their taste in people are in romance and all that. I don't know that. So I wish we could have gotten a little bit of more of that angle. And maybe if we had focused less on it being a competition, especially with the fact that it's not one where you get money. For example, Savannah and Will, those people being like, oh, it's a game, I want to win. What are you winning? You're winning that vacation with the person you end up picking. If you don't like them in the end, why are you even doing that trip in the first place? Just because it's a competition doesn't mean you need to enter and does not mean you need to win. Those are words to live by for me, who is also very competitive. I would love to be on a show like this, but also I would also just love to find love, and I would also love to even still go on a vacation or even just to have a once in a lifetime opportunity. I'm always happy to add more of those into my life. But while I have some critiques of the show, I definitely think this was a show that was necessary, or a great idea at least to have, because, you know, in the Bachelor franchise, you have The Bachelor in Paradise, specifically almost as an epilogue to the journeys of those people that you got to see for a little bit and giving them a second chance at love. I think that's really good, especially in the Love is Blind, because I know Love is Blind was extremely popular. I don't know if Love is Blind is more popular than The Circle. I watched a lot of The Circle, but Love is Blind I have not seen at all. But I know that that's very popular. So I understand why they would want to give those people specifically a second chance at love. And I think it's kind of fun that they're bringing a bunch of people all together. I know that the challenge was a similar thing. I wanted to see the challenge. Still trying to figure out how I'm supposed to watch that. So I'm figuring that out. But at the end of the day, I think that the show didn't know exactly what it wanted to be, because it wanted to be high competition, but it also wanted to be a dating show. And you have to figure out, are you playing to win? Or are you playing to love? And I think with the fact that there's not a big prize at the end, it should be about love, but the fact that none of them stayed together even within the few months after filming it means that they didn't focus enough on love there. So I don't know. At first, when I was watching the show, I was like, how can people fall in love with each other this quickly and like really find their connection among 5 people, basically? And the answer is they didn't. So at least they are a little more mentally stable and a little more self-aware than I thought. But that concludes my thoughts on Perfect Match. What did you think of the show? Did you like it? Did you not? Have you seen it? Did I just spoil it for you in this probably way too long video? My apologies on that. But I do hope that you enjoyed. Please turn the comments into a forum, a little soundboard about this show. I would love to know what your thoughts were. If anyone who was on the show or had anything to do with the show has some inside information, let me know. Or if you can't say it publicly, like my email in the about section is open. I would love to know about that. Yeah. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, please like it. Comment down below what you should do next on my channel. Please subscribe to my channel if you're not already and you'd like to be. And thanks for watching. This is TurtleStormer. Catch you later.